Hello students, welcome to TSAT classes. Welcome to the series on Tspsc Group 1 Mains. As part of the Tspsc Group 1 Mains, we have started Governance and Public Policy series. As part of Governance and Public Policy, we have seen few questions with respect to consumer protection mechanisms in the last class. Let us continue the series and see few more questions in relation to this particular topic. The question which we are going to discuss today in this particular session is, please look at the screen. Why do you think, the question is very interesting, why do you think the relationship between the political executive and general executive must be cordial and good? See, the question is very interesting here. It says that, point number 1, political executive, general executive are different. Point number 2, they both perform different duties. Point number 3, they work together. Point number 4, why it is important that their work or the work they do together should be cordial and good. The relationship between political executive and general executive. This is also part of our syllabus. Look at the syllabus. If you look at the syllabus, it directly says that politician and civil servant relationship. This particular question is related to this also, committed bureaucracy. Committed bureaucracy. Few days back we have seen a question related to neutrality of civil servant. You remember this? There are two types of neutrality, political neutrality and value neutrality. Political neutrality and value neutrality. Now let us see this question, the need for the relationship between the politician and your executive. Let us start with what is committed bureaucracy first. Even before that, if you let's look at the background of it. The executive in India, there are two types of executives, right? The political executive and general executive, where you have bureaucracy, See, political executive is also called temporary executive. General executive is also called permanent executive. The role of the political executive is to make policies, policy formulation, and the role of this general executive is policy implementation. But not only this, all general executives should be politically neutral and also value neutral. They cannot take the ideology of the politician, point number 1. 2, they cannot have emotions or empathy and values, point number 2. Bureaucracy only follows the rules and regulations, and bureaucracy must work under the political executive. They work behind the curtain. Under the political executive. All the consequences, whether good or bad, is taken care or is given to the political executive. Now, how important is the committed bureaucracy here? How important is the committed bureaucracy is the main question. See, whenever a bureaucrat in India takes an oath, he says that his allegiance to the constitution and citizens of India. Whenever he says that his allegiance to the constitution and citizens, he has to be neutral. He has to follow the advice of the public representatives, because public representatives are elected by the citizens. So the reason committed bureaucracy is very, very important. What is the meaning of committed bureaucracy? Committed in the sense dedicated. It is nothing but your dedicated bureaucracy. Dedicated bureaucracy comes when we follow the following things with respect to the civil servant. A bureaucrat must follow the following things. so that there is a dedicated and committed bureaucracy. What are these things? The point number 1 is public office is office of trust. It is an office of trust. People come to you because there is a trust. 2. A public servant should have a spirit of service. He should have the spirit of service. He should have the spirit of service. He should not take the sides. He should have the spirit of service. 3. Objectivity. Objectivity should be more, right? No idealistic. Always be rational in thought. Rational thinking is important. 4. Very order but important is impartiality. He has to be impartial. Impartiality is again important. 5. Integrity. See, integrity is also important. He should create that faith. He should be integrated. He should be modest. He should love his work. Discipline, right? This is also important. And 6, right? 6th one is also important. He should be a dedicated and disciplined towards his work. A bureaucrat has to have the 6 qualities which I mentioned here to be a committed bureaucrat, to be a committed civil servant. He cannot take sides. See, impartial. He has to provide opinion to the politicians. Why? See, politicians are not technically sound. They don't have knowledge. So politicians prepare the policies as per the advice given by the bureaucrats. So it is a bureaucrat who is important. It is a bureaucrat who is important. So this is the committed bureaucracy principles for any civil servant. Now let us come to the main subject of the question, the relationship between the political executive and general executive. What is a relationship? Why it is important? The relationship, political executive and bureaucracy. See, in India, especially in India, the nature of the political executive and general executive depends upon 2 principles. Point number 1, with respect to political executive, it is the ministerial responsibility and bureaucrat anonymity. I told you, right? Anonymity is anonymous. It means nothing but he works behind the curtain. He cannot come out. He has to give opinions to the political executive. So it all depends upon the ministerial responsibility and anonymity. This is a relationship between the political executive and bureaucrat. But why it is important? To understand why it is important, we need to understand the conflict areas. What are the areas of conflict? What are the areas of conflict between political executive and general executive? 1. Violation of neutrality principle. Now what is the meaning of violation of neutrality principle? Excuse me. The value neutrality and political neutrality. See, politicians are not instruments. Sorry, general executive bureaucrats are not instruments. Even though bureaucrats should not follow the morals, empathy, values, it is as they are the human beings, as they have emotions, it is inbuilt within them to put in their values. So they cannot be value neutral. They cannot be called instruments. The next one is political neutrality. What is the meaning of political neutrality? a bureaucrat should not take the ideology, should not consider the ideology of the political parties. Why? Because politicians come and go, bureaucrat is a permanent executive. So they have to work for almost different politicians and political parties. So they cannot choose the ideology, but it is also difficult. Why? Because of the S minister model. Even bureaucrat, while giving the suggestions to the minister, he will keep his opinion, he will keep his comforts. The bureaucrat, while giving the opinion, he feels that he gives the opinion which actually satisfies him, and he will put his needs forward and make the minister do things which he is comfortable in. So the first one is violation of neutrality principle. The second area of conflict is goal displacement. Goal displacement. Now what is the meaning of goal displacement? So bureaucrat, the general executive, as to work only in accordance with the rules and regulations. The values shall be considered by the ministers. The problem is, because the bureaucrats has to follow the rules and regulations, the objective or the goals will be displaced. Why? I will tell you one example. What is the objective or what is the goal of the government? Is the welfare of the people. Imagine there is a 80-year-old lady who came to a public servant seeking pension. She doesn't have Aadhaar card, she doesn't have required documents, she is a homeless person. Now this bureaucrat says that I can sanction pension to you only if you produce me the list of the documents. Without the documents you cannot, I cannot give a sanction the pension. So this lady, 80-year-old lady, misses the pension because of the rules and regulations. Because the bureaucrats do not go with the values, do not go with empathy, they only follow the rules and regulations. As part of following the rules and regulations, the goal displacement is evident. The third one, interference. Interference. See, what is this interference? Generally, the political executive interfere in the work of the general executive. See, whenever they interfere in the work of the general executive, the objective will be diluted. And general executive has no other way to listen to political executive. Why? If not, his neutrality principle will not be followed, point number one. He will be transferred, suspended, all these things will be there. So interfere in the work of the general executive by the politicians, the area of conflict. I will give you one case study, just try to understand this. Imagine there is a IAS officer who is working in one particular district of Telangana, and this IAS officer oversees the law and order. He provides tenders for traffic, he provides tenders for with respect to few further services. Now the local politician, or maybe I'll give you, I'll put it this way. There is an IAS officer or an IPS officer who is in charge of your city or town, and there is a rule in that town saying that all the pubs, all the hostels, all the restaurants shall be closed by 10. Now this police officer will be patrolling around at 9:30, 10 o'clock to see every pub, every restaurant is closed by 10. But there is one restaurant and one pub which is open even after 10. Now when this police officer approached that pub and asked them to close it, they say that we have a permission from the local politician. Now there is a dichotomy. The bureaucrat work under the political executive, the politician. Should he follow that politician or should he follow the rule? Actually, he has to follow the rule as per our bureaucratic principle. Now the local politician call this fellow, this bureaucrat, and say that please provide exemption to that particular restaurant. A bureaucrat cannot do it. A bureaucrat will say to that minister that please make a law allowing all the restaurants to run till 1 o'clock or till 12 o'clock, 12 p.m. or till the midnight. So he can ask the political executive to frame a law for providing exemption to the restaurant or pubs, but he has to follow the rules and regulations. Then there will be a conflict. Because of this conflict, the next conflict of interest is they involve in appointments. They also involves in postings. They involves in your transfers and promotions. Appointments, postings, transfers and promotions. The one biggest challenge. See, a politician wants a bureaucrat to listen to him, but a bureaucrat shall follow the rules and regulations. Because of this, politicians do lobbying, they bargain and they get the officer to that area which he is in charge of, who listen to him. So they involved in the postings, appointments, transfers, promotions, everything. These are the 4 areas of conflict we have with respect to relationship between the political executive and bureaucracy, general executive. But why there is a need? What is a need for healthy relation? If there is a healthy relationship between the political executive and general executive, what will happen? Point number 1. See, maximum utilization of, very important, limited resources for unlimited goals. Very, very important. When these two people work together, there will be a maximum utilization of the available resources for unlimited goals. Again important, very, very important. Political executive is not technically sound. He has to follow the general executive. General executive should be impartial and should provide unbiased opinions. So there will be a maximum utilization of limited resources for unlimited goals. That will lead to sustainable development. The second one is your effective implementation of policies. If there is a good relationship between the political executive and general executive, there will be effective implementation of the policies, and this effective implementation will lead to progress of the country, nation building. It leads to welfare state. Philosophy. The need for the relationship between political executive, general executive. There should be a committed bureaucracy. When there is a committed bureaucracy, that committed bureaucracy will ensure that there is a maximum utilization of the limited resources for unlimited wants, and effective implementation of policies. Nation building, welfare state. The fourth important thing is socio-economic development. The same thing, socio-economic development. When there is a socio-economic development, what will happen? The standard of living of the people increases. The unemployment rate decreases, the poverty decreases, corruption decreases, GDP will grow, the nation progress. So the fourth important need for healthy relationship between the political executive and general executive is socio-economic development of the country. 5. See, the relationship between the political executive and general executive, we call it as a fusion theory. Why there is a fusion theory in India? Because India follows parliamentary system of democracy. When we have this parliamentary system of democracy, it means that with the healthy relationship, there is a sustainable parliamentary democracy in India. There is a sustainable parliamentary democracy. There are two types of democracies: presidential, parliamentary. Parliamentary system is followed in UK. Presidential system is followed in US. India follows parliamentary system of democracy, where all the members of the political executive are part of the legislature, where both general executive, political executive work together. The fifth need for healthy relationship is sustainable parliamentary democracy. The sixth need. See, when there is a healthy relationship between both, I will tell you what will happen. There will be stability, political stability. There will be political stability. Why? See, politicians prepare the policies on the basis of the suggestions given by the bureaucrats. Now, bureaucrats are technically sound and they work directly with the people. They understand the problems of the people. Imagine the people who need to solve the road problem in their area. So, bureaucrats know that the roads are not proper, and the bureaucrat provide the suggestion to the politician saying that you need to lay down the roads. Taking that suggestions, the politician will frame a policy to sanction the road and lay a 4-lane or dambar road or whatever it is, a cement road, etc. When this happens, the people are very satisfied and they elect the same person again in the next election. In that way, there will be political stability. There will not be instability. Right? So, the healthy relationship is actually very important for the politicians, is what we need to understand. So, these are the 6 major requirements for an healthy relationship between the political executive and the general executive. Let me summarize this. First, we started with something called committed bureaucracy. What is a need for committed bureaucracy? Office of trust, a spirit of service, rational thought, rational thinking, impartial, integrity, discipline, dedicated to his work, and not only that, unbiased. He has to be unbiased in providing opinion. He should only focus, committed and focused. Focus towards work, towards welfare. Focus towards welfare. Very, very important. Next, we saw what are the areas of conflict between political executive and general executive. So, the principle of political executive in India, it depends upon the ministerial responsibilities. So, there are 2 types of responsibilities: collective responsibility and individual responsibility. Article 75 of the Indian Constitution deals with both collective and individual responsibility. And bureaucracy, the principle of bureaucracy is based on anonymity. Now, what are these areas of conflict? See, there is a area where the neutrality principle can be diluted or violated. Most of the times, particularly in India, it is violated only, because we do not follow spoils system. We follow the rules and regulation, merit based system. So, value neutrality and political neutrality is violated because of the S-minister model, because of the emotions, because of empathy he has to show. And the next one we have is goal displacement. Because the bureaucrat has to follow the rules and regulations, there will be particularly goal displacement, and political executives start interfering in the work of the general executive, and political executive interfere in the appointments, postings, transfers, promotions, etc. This is the area of conflict. Then what is the need for the healthy relationship? There is a need for the healthy relationship. The first one is maximum, when there is a healthy relationship between these two, there will be maximum utilization of the limited resources for unlimited wants. See, there are many goals to be performed. There are many promises given, freebies, etc. So, to provide these services to the people, there should be maximum utilization of limited resources. And next, effective implementation of policies is also one of the key things. National building, welfare state, socio-economic development, which increases the standard of living, which decreases the poverty, which decreases the employment opportunities. Sustainable parliamentary democracy in India is also very, very important. And we have lastly, healthy relationship ensures political stability. So, this is the answer you need to write for this particular question. So, this is for today. Please revise this concept, please make points, and I will see you guys again in the next class. Till then, happy learning, keep learning. Jai Hind.